My name is Isabel Junkin Hardesty. I'm the Chester RiverKeeper. I work for the Chester River Association, and we work to protect and restore the watershed through advocacy, restoration, and outreach. And as a RiverKeeper, I'm part of the Waterkeeper Alliance, which is an international organization with over 150 waterkeepers around the world, and they all work to protect and restore their specific body of water. And the reason why this model is so important is because you can have a RiverKeeper working on, their particular issues in their watershed, which gives them a lot of expertise in that specific watershed. But then when statewide or region-wide or nationwide issues arise, RiverKeepers can band together and have a stronger voice. I've been with the Chester River Association for 4 years now, and I've been RiverKeeper for 2 of those. And my background has served me pretty well to be RiverKeeper. I have a Bachelor's of Science from Bucknell University and a Master's in Environmental Management from Duke University. So I have the science background and I have the policy, economics, management background. And that's really important because we are very much a science-based advocacy group. We have a very robust water quality monitoring program that we've been doing for at least since 2007. We have consistent data. We test for the same parameters at the same site. And that gives us a really good understanding of the river's health over the years and where potential hotspots are of pollution. And we use that data to help inform the other work that we do, our advocacy work or our restoration work going forward. So for the Chester watershed, our impairments, the things that are polluting our waters, are too many nutrients and too many sediments. And in our watershed, it mostly comes from agricultural practices. And that's because we have wonderful soils for growing food. So because of that, our land use is 65% row crop agriculture. On the Upper Eastern Shore, very dominated by row crop. And in our watershed in particular, it's 65% row crop ag. So because of that, most of the excess nutrients and sediment in our waterways come from farming practices. But they also come from wastewater treatment plants, septic systems, lawn fertilizer, stormwater runoff from towns, all those kinds of sources. The RiverKeeper is supposed to be the eyes, the ears, and the voice for the river. There are so many federal and state and local agencies and regulations and rules that govern the use of our natural resources, and a lot of them are very broad-reaching and very complicated. So, for example, the Chesapeake Bay Total Maximum Daily Load Initiative has mandated us to clean up our pollution in order to clean up the Chesapeake Bay and the major rivers and streams that flow into it. But when it comes down to it, I care about the Chesapeake Bay, but what I really care about is the stream behind my house. And what most people really care about is that beach that they grew up fishing off of, or that cove that they grew up swimming in. And so these more broad-reaching regulations or initiatives like let's clean up the bay, a lot of times that doesn't really connect with people. What really connects is their local body of water. And that's where the RiverKeeper comes in, because the RiverKeeper is someone who's supposed to be an expert in that watershed of what are the issues, what are the land uses, what are the regulations and the people who we can go to make sure that the management of our natural resources and of our water is being done in such a way that we will actually achieve clean water. The biggest challenge that I've seen in my time here is convincing people that this work is worth it, but that it's going to take a while to make a difference and to see that impact. It's taken hundreds of years to get our river to the point where it is now, where it's this polluted and degraded and doesn't really support the quality of life that we would like to see. So we're not going to be able to fix it in a matter of years. It's going to take decades to get it to the point where it's a vibrant river with clean water and it supports the activities, the fishing, swimming, the things that we want to do in it. So, we're a society where we want that instant gratification. So it's difficult to convince people, yes, continue to take that difficult action, continue to pay that money to put in that practice. We need to continue to push, our legislators and our representatives to support clean water regulations. And we need to continue doing it every single year, and that's how we're going to make a difference in the long run. The Chester River Association, about 7 years ago, identified agriculture as one of our main sources of pollution. And we really wanted to create a strong program to interact with farmers and the farming industry and try and reduce pollution from that sector. So we created our agricultural program, and we have 2 people who work in that specific program, and one of them worked for 30 years with NRCS, and one is a 3rd or 4th generation family farmer. So they are very tied into the agricultural industry, which is important because you need to be able to go out and talk to our community members in order to show them why we want to put in these practices to reduce pollution. And the main point of our agricultural program is to help farmers with putting in best management practices that will reduce pollution, that will make their farm more environmentally friendly, but will also help their bottom line. We need to make sure that our farms are still economically viable as businesses in order for them to actually commit to reducing pollution by putting in these practices. So we know that agricultural practices is our biggest source of pollution. And so we have a very robust program working with farmers. But we also know that everyone else contributes to pollution as well. And so we don't want to forget those sectors, even though they're smaller. And that's where the RiverKeeper comes in. We do a lot of restoration projects, so on the ground, putting in a living shoreline, planting trees, encouraging people to restore wetlands on their property, that kind of thing. We advocate with our county commissioners and our state representatives to advocate for strong clean water regulations. We work with our community and our schools to try and educate people about the issues. And we really try and get people to take action to reduce pollution from wastewater treatment plants, septic systems, lawns, all those other sources. Our cultural program we are helping develop a new innovative technology. It's a precision application technology for fertilizer. And this particular model that we're working with is called Green Seeker. Now, when farmers go to fertilize corn in side dressing, when the corn has already grown and is already pretty high, usually the tractor goes across the field and puts the same amount of fertilizer down as it goes across the whole field. But we know that there's natural variability within the soil based on slope and how wet it is and how well drained and all that kind of thing. So there are certain areas of a field where plants could be doing really well and maybe don't need as much fertilizer. Or maybe a plant is doing pretty poorly and it could use more fertilizer. So precision application technology actually works with, you put a boom, you put sensors across the boom of a tractor. And as the tractor moves through the field, those sensors read the health of that particular row of plants. And it applies only the amount of fertilizer that row of plants needs. So the point is, you're not exactly putting down, you're not necessarily putting down less fertilizer. You're just putting it down exactly where the plants need it. So it's more likely to actually be taken up by the plant and then harvested, instead of being left in the soil to then get washed into the river or into our groundwater. So if I could change 3 things in the Chester watershed that I think would have significant impacts to the health of our watershed and to our water. One would be, I would love to see 100-foot buffers of trees or shrubs or grasses on every stream bank. So river banks, stream banks, ditches, I'd love to see 100-foot buffers. We really need those filter strips. They help reduce sediment pollution and nutrient pollution. And I'd also love to see more wetland restoration. On the eastern shore, especially in our watershed, we're very low. We have a very high groundwater table, and there are lots of areas that we farm that used to be wetlands. And wetlands are really the kidneys of our watershed. We need them to filter nutrients and sediment, and they provide habitat. So I'd love to see more wetlands restored across the watershed. And then the final thing is no more lawn fertilizer. And the reason I say this is because we need fertilizer to grow our food. We need food to survive. So using fertilizer to grow our food in a way that doesn't severely impact our natural resources is something that we are going to continually have to figure out. Using fertilizer to grow our grass so that it's perfectly lush and green is a complete waste. We don't need it. It's an input of pollution into our waterways that we really don't need. It's just not necessary. One of the greatest misconceptions in our watershed and in other watersheds in the whole Chesapeake Bay is that the Chesapeake Bay pollutes our river, our Chester River. A lot of people think that pollution from Baltimore, comes into our river and pollutes our river, or that pollution from flowing down the Susquehanna from behind the Conowingo Dam comes up into our river and pollutes our river, and that is just not the case. There is actually a mixing zone. It is just east of Eastern Neck, and it shifts with the tide, but bay water will come in around the big mouth of the Chester River and will hit that mixing zone and kind of stop. And then water will go from east of Eastern Neck all the way up to the rest of the Chester and kind of flow back and forth in that section. Because of the geography and the geology of our specific river, the bay really doesn't have a lot of influence on the water quality in the Chester River. And that's actually a good thing, because it means that when we go out on our boat and we test the water quality up and down the river, we're seeing the effects of the land use immediately next to us, of the land in our watershed. So we don't have to, of course everyone wants the Chesapeake Bay to be cleaned up, and there are all these state and regional initiatives. But specifically for the Chester, our solutions lie within our own watershed, on our own homes, on our own land, in our own town. The pollution's coming from the land around us. That means that the solution can come from the land around us as well, and we can all be a part of it, and we can make sure that we actually make a difference.